Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Baltimore, Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
I'm Aaron Maté, here with Hans Mahncke, author of the book Swift Boating America, Exposing the Russiagate Fraud from the Steele dossier to the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane. And we're talking about the new era at the FBI under Kash Patel, who has just been sworn in as FBI director. Kash Patel singularly exposed the Russiagate fraud as a congressional investigator. And because he exposed the Russiagate fraud and the FBI's deception in that, Russiagate fraudsters like Adam Schiff are not happy. And here is Adam Schiff making his displeasure known.
He can't do the job. He won't protect the public. He will misuse the resources of the Bureau. He will weaponize it against the president's political opponents rather than protecting the safety, the public safety of the American people.
That's Adam Schiff speaking outside the Justice Department. That was like a last-ditch effort to stop the confirmation of Kash Patel. It failed. And later on that night, he went on his safe space, MSNBC.
Look, when Donald Trump is gone, there's a Democratic president. I can't imagine they're going to want to keep on someone as destructive as Kash Patel. But I could imagine, frankly, that we would be in this place to begin with. So we're in uncharted waters. We've had a debate about what level of constitutional crisis we're in. And frankly, I think we're already there. Mm-hmm. And yes, it can get worse if they just start ignoring court opinions. But when you have someone who is essentially the president's Roy Cohn, his hatchet man, now controlling the premier law enforcement agency.
So that's Adam Schiff, not happy about Kash Patel now helming the FBI. Adam Schiff calls this a constitutional crisis. Hans, you've written about Adam Schiff, his role extensively, the leading congressional promoter of the Russiagate fraud. He famously went on national television and said that he had seen secret evidence of collusion, thereby abusing his position as House Intelligence Chair because we couldn't see what he was falsely claiming to have seen, and therefore took a major part in misleading so many people into believing into this Trump-Russia conspiracy fiction. So what do you think he has to fear in Kash Patel now being head of the FBI?
Unfortunately, probably not much, because I don't think Kash Patel is there for retribution or anything like that. As I mentioned, he is not a political guy. I think, one little anecdote here, which is very important, and I was misled about this myself, back in 2017 when the Nunes investigation kind of first took off. And I kind of just read about it on the periphery, whatever. I was always under the impression that Kash Patel was a staffer in Nunes's office who kind of just stumbled into this whole thing. But that's absolutely not true. Nunes started this investigation and he realized this is probably going to be the most important investigation maybe ever in the history of Congress. And then he went out looking for someone to lead that investigation. And then he found Kash Patel because he had all the right attributes. Kash Patel at the time was in the DOJ in the National Security Division. He was exactly the right guy. And so he was picked for that job. But the most important thing is he was apolitical. And he told Nunes on day one, look, I'm not here to do GOP work or Democrat work or whatever. I'm just here to do the investigation. And if it comes out bad for you being Nunes or Trump or whatever, well, then so be it. And Nunes said, fine, this is what we hired you for. So this is so important to keep in mind. And that's why I think he just wants to right the ship. He wants to fix the FBI. I don't think he's going to come after Schiff. I hope he does, but I don't think that's going to happen. Not that, no one should go after Schiff. For instance, we talked about the Nunes memo earlier. Right after that was issued, Schiff issued his own memo to kind of, have a media talking point, to have a pushback point. Now that we know so much more, and you put those two memos side by side, one is entirely correct, understated, as I mentioned. The other one, the Schiff memo, is just lie upon lie.
Well, let's go back to that time, because Adam Schiff, when he put out his counterpoint to the Nunes memo, he was welcomed on CNN, MSNBC, and everybody was saying Adam Schiff is right. He was treated like a hero. So this is one example.
So why do they release one and not the other? I mean, after all, these are the people pushing the release the memo campaign. It's political. This is a continuation of the effort to protect the president's hide, push out a misleading narrative, selectively declassify information. It's a really disgraceful act, in my view, to make partisan and political the declassification process. And I think it's what you see when you have a flawed president infecting the whole of government.
You have no doubt that this is just a smokescreen, essentially, that this is about trying to stop the Russia probe or slow it down or raise questions about the FBI, the Department of Justice, that then allow maybe Rod Rosenstein to be removed.
This is exactly what they're doing. I used to be a prosecutor, and a tried and true defense tactic when the facts are really bad for the defendant, you try to put the government on trial. So from the very beginning of this investigation, rather than keeping a focus on what did Russia do, what do we know about the secret contacts they had with the Trump campaign, what do we do to protect ourselves in the future, the chairman and those who are aligned with him in the White House, their whole goal has been, no, put the government on trial.
And that was the line we got until, of course, the Mueller report had to be released, and they had absolutely nothing. And Adam Schiff was shown to be a pathological liar who had misled his own audience into believing into this fictitious Trump-Russia conspiracy. And he was so confident in this conspiracy theory that he even read, and this does not get mocked enough in my opinion, he even read the Steele dossier, which again is a piece of fiction written by Christopher Steele, paid for by Hillary Clinton. He read portions of the Steele dossier into the congressional record.
Also, according to Steele's Russian sources, the campaign is offered documents damaging to Hillary Clinton, which the Russians would publish through an outlet that gives them deniability, like WikiLeaks. The hacked documents would be in exchange for a Trump administration policy that de-emphasizes Russia's invasion of Ukraine and instead focuses on criticizing NATO countries for not paying their fair share. Policies which, even as recently as the president's meeting last week with Angela Merkel, have now presciently come to pass.
So that was Adam Schiff hailing Christopher Steele as a prescient visionary because all of his predictions had come true. And that's partly because Steele was reading the newspaper and then writing his reports based on some approximation of what was happening. That was his actual source, not people inside the Kremlin. So Hans, I take your point that Schiff is not going to face political retribution from Kash Patel. I think that's fair, but obviously Schiff has ample reason to be upset now that the person who helped expose his Russiagate fraud is leading the FBI, where that fraud was perpetrated.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm very hopeful we do get that accountability. I mean, it is the reason why people like Schiff are screaming and why they're so hysterical. And, you showed the clip earlier of him, I think it was yesterday at the FBI headquarters, losing his mind. Oh, my goodness, Kash Patel and so on, is because he knows exactly how the FBI was abused for all these years. So there's probably a part of him that expects Kash Patel to do that to him, just to reverse it and use the same tactics and so on his enemies, exactly like Comey and then later on Ray did when they were in charge. And, as I mentioned, I don't think Kash Patel is going to do that. But your point is really well taken. What Kash Patel can do, and I'm sure he will do, and he's talked a lot about materials that we have not seen that he's seen because they were classified and not allowed to talk about them. And then there's probably other things which he hasn't even seen. And then there's probably also these unknown unknowns that no one even knows about. But, I have a long list of things that I want to see. And obviously Kash knows what that list is and things that he knows that he wants to release and he wants to let everyone see. There's things that Kash doesn't know yet and he will find out. So I hope he releases all of that, because what people will come away from looking at everything in totality once it's released is, as you already said, everything was made up. Everything was fabricated. The whole thing. There wasn't an ounce of truth about anything. Everything that Schiff ever said about it was a lie. The entire thing was made up. And, I'd add one thing. This is where I thought the initial Nunes report was understated. They still kind of gave Steele credit for actually doing some kind of research, some kind of digging. He did something. And what we found out in the intervening years since that Nunes report came out is that he didn't actually do that at all. He was just re-scripting or rewriting scripts or stories that had been given to him. So one of the things we found out, for instance, is the P-tape story. Steele didn't even come up with that. The Clinton campaign gave him that, like write about that. So in a way, they were using Steele as a kind of a mouthpiece to just give the whole thing a veneer of, respectability. This former British spy, and he has this dossier and so on. But many of these stories actually came from the Clinton campaign. So there wasn't even any research. There wasn't even any digging or anything like that involved.
Somebody close to the Clintons was the source for the claim that Trump stayed in the Ritz-Carlton, and that turned out to be an executive who was actually, what was his name? Charles Dolan, I think. Is that right? Was that his name? I don't remember now. But somebody close to the Clinton campaign.
Correct.
Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Baltimore, Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.